Welcome everyone to Bike Minds. I'm your host for this evening, Matt Pinder. I'm one of the co-founders of Bike Minds, and me and my team of great volunteers have brought to you tonight this event. It's our fourth virtual event in the last year, and we're really excited. We got 4 stories for you tonight. We'll jump into those very shortly, and we expect to have you all out of here by about 9 o'clock after we have some group question and answers at the end. A little bit about Bike Minds. Our mission is to change the way that you feel about people who ride bikes, one story at a time. And our vision is a world where everyone can see themselves riding a bike. And we do this through the sharing of positive and inspiring bike-related stories. We believe that through stories, we can share experiences and share positivity and influence people in far different ways than facts and infrastructure and other very important elements can. But people are driven by emotions, and that's what we've found through our event series. We started in 2018 running these events, and since then we've run 13 events in Ottawa, Toronto, Gatineau, Halifax, and virtually, as we are tonight. We've shared over 74 stories across our events, and on our website, bikeminds.ca, you'll find 12 hours of those stories recorded for your listening pleasure. We have audio recordings and video recordings. And keep up with us on Twitter as well. We're at Bike Minds, and then we're also on Facebook, Bike Minds Storytelling. So here's our 4 storytellers that you're going to hear from tonight. We're talking about bikes and kids. We had our first Bikes and Children event just a couple months ago, and it was so popular, and we had so many great submissions that we decided to split it into 2 events. So on deck tonight, we have Chris and Emily McCue. We have Céline Pash. We have Robin Richardson, and we have CÉCILE Lecoq. And finally, for those of you who have a story, everybody's got a story. We're always looking for more submissions. This is how we make our events run. So think about heading to our website, filling out a form, submitting your story, and we'll hope to see you sharing yours at our next event. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first pair of storytellers for the evening, Chris and Emily McCue. Chris McCue is an avid cyclist and an occasional photographer and guitarist, though if you ask him, he'll say he's more of a guitar owner than a guitar player. He also enjoys spending time with his family, camping, canoeing, and hiking. Emily McCue is 11 years old and is a competitive swimmer. Emily has many hobbies, such as playing the ukulele and knitting, and all types of art and reading. Emily really enjoys cycling with her family and friends and has completed some cycling and triathlon events. Over to you, Chris and Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris, and this is Emily. And we're going to just start our slideshow right now. About our story, which is a story of a 200-kilometer self-guided cycle tour of the D-Day landing sites in France that our family of 3 did for my 25th birthday.
50th.
This is also a story about adapting. So the bike ride was 200 kilometers in 4 days. It started in Bayeux and ended in Honfleur. The tour company carried our luggage from hotel to hotel, and we traveled by bike at our own pace for the rest of the time. The shortest ride was 40 kilometers and the longest was 65 kilometers. Prior to this trip, the longest ride that Emily had completed was around 20 kilometers long, so we knew there was going to be a lot of ice cream breaks.
I was only 8 at the time, and we had trouble deciding whether my rental bike should be a 20-inch bike like what I had at home or a bigger bike, which I wasn't sure I could ride. I was worried that I got a bigger bike, I couldn't ride it, and the trip would be over before it started.
The tour company was really helpful, but we were choosing a trip that they never had a child complete, so they couldn't offer us much advice based on their past experience. So for Emily, we could choose between a 20-inch bike, which she was currently riding, or a full-size bike, which she'd never even tried. Our family discussed it for a while, maybe a little too long, and decided that the 20-inch bike would be the best one to choose. And then we get some connector that would allow me to pull her when she was tired. There were a lot of unknowns for the ride. We didn't know the terrain, we didn't know the traffic, we didn't know the bikes that we were going to get, and we never used a bike connector for her. She always just rode once she got out of her chariot. So we researched a bunch of different kinds of attachments, and at the last minute, we found what appeared to be the perfect solution. It was a long line that we could connect from any bike to any bike, and it could be easily carried, rolled up and carried when it was not in use. So we spoke to the out-of-province supplier, and they shipped it to us guaranteed delivery for a Tuesday, which was tight, but okay. We were leaving on Wednesday. Problem is, it didn't arrive on Tuesday. We got a frantic call on Wednesday from the shipping company asking us where we were. We were at our gate at the airport. So on to plan B.
My mom called the bike rental company to see what they could do. They didn't have enough time to get a bigger bike, so I was stuck with a 20-inch bike.
They couldn't get that type of connector, the line connector that we almost had delivered in time. So we settled on another type of connector, which they purchased and attached to my bike. At the first safe opportunity, on our first day of riding, we decided to test the connector. How was it?
I hated it. It was wobbly and once I almost fell.
So we didn't use it. I carried it with me the rest of the ride, and she rode her 20-inch bike the entire ride.
Without the connector, hills became a challenge. I rode up the hills as best I could, and when I got tired, my dad rode next to me with his hand on my back and pushed me up the hills. We only walked up one hill on a hot day.
It was a huge hill.
A very big hill.
Mom rode up front and navigated. Emily was in the middle, and I kept an eye on things in the rear. We used a lot of verbal signals to warn each other of hazards like car up and car back. Emily would tuck in close behind Mom, and I went close behind Mom and I behind her, and we would move to the side of the road to allow cars to pass. There were a few short stretches on busy roads, but most of it was quiet country roads and villages. And so we saw the D-Day landing sites, the Atlantic Wall defenses, a lot of beautiful countryside and quaint little towns, and we ate a lot of great food. We visited Omaha, Gold, and Juno beaches, and Pegasus Bridge, which was the site of a British airborne assault, and also the first French building liberated by the Allies. And Emily rode 200 kilometers in 4 days. She did it. And I think that the moral of the story is never underestimate what a kid is capable of, especially when there's no other choice. So what was your favorite part of the trip?
I definitely enjoyed the food and the places to eat, especially ice cream and macaroons. I don't know how to say it. Sorry.
Macaroons.
I must have had ice cream every day. I really liked the scenery too. It was cool learning about these things and seeing them too. What was your favorite part of the trip?
I like riding through the little villages. I love the French countryside, and I really, really liked the Juno Beach Center was amazing. And of course, the food, and especially the Normandy version of cassoulet, very good. Well, what was something crazy that happened?
I think the craziest thing that happened on the entire trip was when we went to this cafe, and it was full of wasps that were like attracted to the sweet stuff. But everyone else in the bakery seemed to have not noticed the wasps. It was like only us that was just like, oh my gosh, the wasps. And everyone else was just ordering stuff.
The wasps had good taste. And this last picture here is the picture of Emily in Honfleur after the very last bike ride. This is at the hotel. We had finished the trip, and this is her she did it moment. I'm so proud of her. And that's our story. Thanks for listening.
Right on. Thanks, Chris and Emily. You make a great pair in your storytelling too. I like the back and forth. And can you just repeat for us, how many kilometers did you ride together in 4 days?
It was 200 kilometers.
Wow.
And she was on a 20-inch bike with tiny little wheels.
So you were the one who had it easy, Chris.
Yeah, I did. I got to eat the ice cream too. That was the other part that was good.
Right on. Well, we've got some questions, and just a reminder to the audience, you're welcome to submit questions, and you're also welcome to post reactions and any kind of positive stuff in the chat. but I'm going to kick off the questions. You talked a lot about food. I also love eating food on long bike trips. I feel like you can eat anything and it doesn't matter. But question for Emily, what was your favorite ice cream flavor that you tried on the trip?
You want me to say it?
Cotton candy ice cream.
It was another story too, and somebody who speaks French could. A waitress at a restaurant was saying, with what sounded like "bapa papa" to us, but it was like beard of papa, and it means cotton candy. So there was this funny exchange. That's why she's laughing, because she's thinking of "bapa papa."
Oh, that's great. Okay, one more question. Do you want to do another one of these trips together? Do you think another one is in the works, or are you all done with biking, Emily?
Yes, after COVID.
Yeah,
definitely.
We're missing a little bit. I think we've been riding a little here in town, but it would be nice. We really would like to do another trip. We have PEI in mind.
Oh,
Confederation
yeah,
Trail. That's what we're kind of looking at.
Very good. Question from Bradley in the audience. Is Emily still riding a 20-inch wheel bike, and have you done any tours since this trip?
Emily's on a full-sized road bike now.
Wow.
So she has grown quite a bit and is a much more competent rider. She was very competent in France too, but much more competent rider now and much faster now too. I think we could do that trip in 3 days now.
I don't think so. I need a lot more ice cream bricks.
Yeah, twice as much ice cream. All right, well, thanks so much, Chris and Emily. Your story was great. I'm gonna now start introducing our second storyteller for the evening, CÉLINE Pasche. For the last 10 years, CÉLINE and her family have been nomads on the roads of the world. They have cycled 78,000 kilometers on 4 continents. That sounds like a lot of ice cream. From China to Alaska, and from Syria to New Zealand. CÉLINE's 2 daughters, Naila and Phoebe, were born along the way. The Pasches are now exploring the great northern horizon. Over to you, CÉLINE.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you, Bike Minds, for inviting us at the event tonight. So we are a nomadic family on bicycle. For the last 10 years, we have been cycling on the road of the world, 78,000 kilometers on 4 continents, and our 2 daughters were born along the way. I could never imagine it that day when we left Switzerland in 2010. So this is my partner, Xavier. Naila is 7 years old, and Phoebe is 3 years old. But I'm going to take you first to the Himalayas, to a place where there's only the silence and the breath of the wind. And this is there that I got the intuition that I was pregnant. So I waited until I was at the right place. It was there at 5,500 meter elevation in front of Mount Everest that I told Xavier he was going to be a dad. This is the magic of our life. We're all the time together as a family, exploring the world. Of course, it is a challenge, as well as never-ending teachings, and an opportunity to follow the whispers of our hearts. Phoebe and Naila are born nomads. They were born in Malaysia, and we came back to Penang Island to give birth to Phoebe. And since when they were 5 months old each, we hit the road again. And we really needed to trust life. Naila has been on the road of the world for 40,000 kilometers, so it's nearly once around the Earth on the equator. And Phoebe, at 3 years old, has been in 11 countries already, and in some of the most remote corners of the world. So the first project took us from Switzerland to New Zealand. We are actually Swiss. And we thought it would take us 3 years, but it actually took us 5. And our first daughter was born along the way. We just really decided to let the wind, our hearts, and the synchronicities guide us. And our itinerary revealed the symbol of infinity. 2 loops run around the sacred mountain of the Altai in Siberia, and one around the high mystical peaks of the Himalaya. this is when we realized in New Zealand, when we arrived in New Zealand, we really realized that it was more than a journey, it was our life, and that we became nomads. So we decided to do a second project, and it's called the Great Northern Horizon, that we started in 2016. We decided to cycle in a spiral around the northern spaces of the world. We started in Hokkaido, the northernmost island of Japan, and then we went back south to Malaysia to give birth to Phoebe, then cycled in Siberia, Mongolia, China. Then in America, we cycled in Alaska and crossed Canada from the Yukon all the way to Quebec, where we are now, near Lake Saint-Jean. So every night we sleep in a tent. We never know where we'll sleep at night. So every single day, every single second, we dive into the unknown, and every day is a new beginning. So after cycling through Siberia, we entered Mongolia. And in the middle of the Mongol steppes, we really felt that there's only us and the earth. We are totally immersed in the impression, sensation, and scent of this land of freedom. We get to meet the people there, the nomads, and their culture. And for us, diving in the culture of the world is really learning to see the world with new eyes. And in this ger, so we enter this ger is a Mongolian yurt. There was a fire fed by dung. And there's also meat that dried on the wooden frame. And as a tradition, the woman was going to serve us a bowl of salted milk tea, the tsusutsai. And we always had to accept it with 2 hands. This is where Phoebe learned to walk. She actually did her first step in a yurt. And for her first birthday, she had fermented mare milk, which is called erag, and a horsho, which is a fried dumpling with mutton meat. Then we decided to cross the Gobi Desert. The Gobi Desert is the coldest desert in the world. It's a wild expanse where the temperature varies of 90 degrees Celsius between winter and summer. And so for us, it was not about the challenge, but it was a call from our heart to dive in this immense and inhabited land where the wind is the master. Of course, we had challenges, including water. So for example, we had an old map of the Russian old well, but we were also kind of worried for our daughters, of course. You know, the intensity of the sun rays were very strong, the powerful winds, the thorn that would hurt their feet, but also at the end of the crossing, the temperature would stay below freezing day and night. But it was amazing to see them play with everything. They were really immersed in the land, in the desert, in the magic, and they really touched the magic of the desert that comes out of the invisible. Once we left the Gobi Desert, Naila asked for months after, when are we going back to the Gobi? So we really want to know what it feels to dive in the world. And so our daughter are experimenting the school of life. Phoebe is cycling by herself now. Since she's 3 years old, she can cycle alone. She usually cycles on cycling paths. And then if she's tired, she can go. I have a tandem system attached to my bike, which is called Follow Me. So we can attach her bike on my bike. And if she's very tired, she can go in a Tulle chariot. Naila mostly cycles by herself. We usually cycle between 50 and 60 kilometers. It's a good pace for us. And so she can cycle that. Sometimes she uses string. And if she's really tired, she can also go on the tandem system behind me. We usually cycle, as I said, it's a good pace for us to cycle between 50 and 60 kilometers a day. In most remote area, we have to cycle more like 70 kilometers plus for consecutive days. We usually try to stop in all the playgrounds so that the girls can play with other children when they are playgrounds, of course. And the girls are playing with all children, and languages is never a problem. It's amazing. They just take each other by the hand and go and play or run. And so Naila and Phoebe really learn different languages. They are fluent in French and English, but they also learn some Japanese, some word in Japanese and Chinese. Naila, for example, learned to play taiko, which is a traditional Japanese drug. And they both did some dog sledding in the Yukon. So they're really quivering with life. We do some tent schooling. So we sit down to write and read, to do some math too. But really, we realize that everything is an excuse to learn. So we do math in the markets. They know geography because they've been there. They learn history through the history of the country and the civilization. And what we realize that we're not the teacher, but we learn together. For example, when we were in the prairies, we saw the antelopes and we didn't even know there was antelopes in the prairies. So we started learning about them and we learned together. And that's how we feel really fully alive, because we always learn all the time. But the kilometers are really a mere reflection of our inner transformation. This journey is really an initiation. We receive teaching coming from the people, the culture, but also from our inner guidance, the earth, and the mysteries. There is no word to express this life force that every day takes us a little further. And there's no limit to the life you can imagine. So follow your deepest inspiration, breathe in the power of the earth to fully live your life and bring magic to the world. Our life is to live, explore, share, inspire. Live the present moment, explore the fantastic landscape of the earth, and discover the culture of the world as well as our inner world. Share our experiences to inspire people to live their dream. So we like to share our story to inspire people. We have our website. There's lots of pictures and stories there. We have a book that we wrote. It's called Nomad in the Heart of the Elements. We do some conference. We used to do some talks, but now it's more webinars. And we invited to speak sometimes about different themes. It can be positive parenting, it can be also tent schooling or delight directing learning. We write some articles, and we also offer individual coaching for adults and children to listen to the power of their intuition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Céline. Wow, the photos and the adventure and the inspiration, that was such an excellent talk. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
I'm going to kick off the questions. You talked about some of the amazing lessons that your children have learned along the way, Phoebe and Naila. What's one of the most memorable lessons that you've managed to teach them on this journey?
I think there's two things that is pretty amazing, even for us. The first thing is the fact that because they're always in nature, they live in nature, they're surrounded by nature, they really they live the interconnectivity of the world. So basically, they say thank you for the shade that the tree offers. They say thank you for the river that gives them water. Every time they break a branch or use a branch, they say thank you for the tree spirit. So they're very interconnection with the world around them. And then the second thing would be their resilience. We dive in the unknown. We never know what is around the next curve, so we don't know. We can't project ourselves, and so they are even better than us. And sometimes when we have changing plans, they are the ones saying, "That's okay, let's do something else." So they're really, really good about that. Wow. That's their life.
Wow. A question from Suzanne: is there one place that you would most want to return to from your journeys?
Oh, there's not one place, there's multiple places. We really like the wild spaces. So we like places like Mongolia, as you've seen. We really like places like Tajikistan. In Tajikistan, we cycle above 4,000 meter elevation for 2 weeks. We were just as a couple, and we really enjoy that place in Central Asia. We enjoy Japan. Japan is a little bit our second home. Naila it's a favorite country. And of course, we really enjoy also the Yukon. It was very special. We spent last winter in the Yukon, and we really enjoyed that. Very special experience.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing the link to your website. I'm sure many of the people watching today would like to keep up with your journey. So we'll make sure to send that out with the recap as well.
And
thanks
please
so much, Céline.
Thank you.
I'm going to introduce our third storyteller now for the evening. for Robin Richardson. Robin has lived and cycled in small towns and big cities in California, New Jersey, Washington, and Ontario. After their family ditched their SUV for an active travel lifestyle, Robin became more active in her efforts to improve safety for active transportation in Toronto and joined the Bike Brigade, a volunteer organization that makes deliveries to folks in need. Her next project is to offer a selection of electric cargo bikes for rent, helping people see how easy it is to swap car trips for bike trips. Robin's mission is to entice more people to give cycling a try. Over to you, Robin.
Thanks, Matt. Celine, thank you for that amazing story. You are a tough act to follow. And I mean, I thought biking in Toronto was an adventure, but your story really takes the cake. But thank you everybody for listening to my little story anyway. I would like to begin by addressing my fellow cargo cyclists. Hello, my friends. This story isn't for you. If you already know what quaxing means, I'm not talking to you. If you know what bagging and dragging is, I'm not talking to you. And if you know the difference between a long john and a long tail, I'm not talking to you either, because you probably already know all of this. But you're welcome to listen anyway, of course. My story tonight is for everyone else, for the young professional who loves going for bike rides on the weekends, but spends rush hour sitting in their car, for the busy dad who chauffeurs his kids to school, sports, activities, and friends' houses, trying to squeeze in a brisk run or gym session among all those pickups and drop-offs, for the senior who hasn't ridden a bike in years and can't imagine buying groceries by bike, and especially for the guilty environmentalist who cringes every time she gets behind the wheel of her SUV, because that was me. You see, 12 years ago, I was delighted to find out that I was expecting our third child. With a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old already in our family, I was anticipating busy days of school, sports, playdates, and other adventures. I needed to be able to transport my kids safely, and I wanted room for their friends and gear too. So my husband, Matthew, and I decided to buy a 7-seater SUV. We drove that SUV all over Toronto to school, work, errands, doctor's appointments, playdates, sports fields, birthday parties. You get the gist. We struggled with traffic, parking, gas insurance and repair costs, and most of all, with the awful feeling that our actions didn't line up with our beliefs. All that driving made us grumpy and short-tempered. We didn't want to spend so much time behind the wheel, but with small kids and busy lives, we just didn't see an alternative. Then Matthew signed up to participate in a fundraising ride for a veterinary charity called the Farley Foundation. To train, he started to bike commute 1 day a week. It was immediately apparent how much healthier and happier he felt on the days he rode his bike, and his commute took no longer than it had by car. He started bike commuting more frequently. Then my kids' school celebrated Earth Week with a challenge to get to school by ABC. Anything but car. We tried combinations of walking, scootering, biking, and transit, and managed to complete the week car-free. We loved the adventure of getting to school in some new ways, but it was stressful too. We didn't have the hang of it yet. So it took longer than our drive, and it felt pretty chaotic with kids ranging in age from 7 to 1, plus me wrangling their stuff. The most successful non-car option that we tried was biking, with the younger 2 in a trailer and the oldest on his own bike. We only did it occasionally though. When the weather was warm, we didn't have too much stuff, and everyone was cheerful and on time in the morning. Those of you who are parents know those kinds of days are few and far between. Eventually though, we moved to a new place that was closer to Matthew's work and our kids' school. By then, our kids were 10, 6, and 3, and it felt very doable to leave the car at home, in the spring and fall at least. We started using our bikes to go other places too, errands, playdates, and appointments. Winter riding took me a lot longer to come around to, but once we had experienced the freedom of bike travel, I couldn't bear getting back in the car just because a few flakes of snow were falling. We took the plunge and bought studded tires for the icy roads that are common here, stocked up on big warm gloves, balaclavas, and scarves, and just kept riding. It was awesome. Sure, we got cold sometimes and we struggled through snow occasionally, but it was much more manageable than we had assumed, and we kicked ourselves for not having tried it sooner. The final piece in our transition to a nearly car-free family was to look at the few times a week that we still drove the car and ask ourselves why. Grocery shopping for 3 growing kids and their hungry parents was a big one. A few kids' activities that took place a bit farther away, the dog park. The common factors were distance and stuff. We needed a little help with speed, endurance, and carrying. So we sold the SUV and invested in electric cargo bikes. Their sturdy construction, electric motors, and extra large frames let us carry our kids, dogs, groceries, home improvement supplies, deliveries for the vet clinic, food share boxes for our neighbors in need, you name it. It is no exaggeration to say that these bikes have been life-changing for us. Not only have they saved us money, stress, time, and guilt, they've introduced us to a new group of friends in the active transportation community and have helped us maintain our physical and mental health throughout this difficult year. In fact, our cargo bikes have made such a difference in our quality of life that I decided to start a small business renting them out so people can see for themselves what a game changer they are. Happy Feets will be launching next month, and here's hoping it will be the catalyst that helps more families discover the joy of cycling instead of driving. I'd like to share a bit about how we made this change in hopes that it helps some of you give it a try. These tips are focused on families with little kids, but they apply to kids of all ages. First, start slow. You don't have to give up your car and go 100% by bike right away. Every time you leave the car at home, you're helping the environment, your neighborhood, and your family be healthier. Start with the easiest, most enjoyable trips: the toy store, the playground, the bakery. Go early in the day when traffic is light and your kids have lots of energy. If you have a bike trailer, bring it. Someone may need a rest, and you can carry snacks, extra clothes, toys for the park, stuff like that. These rides are for fun and to build up skills and comfort. They're also an opportunity to practice safety strategies. Little kids might like to imagine that they're a spy or a superhero whose superpower is to be invisible. They can pretend the drivers can't see them and make sure to stay where the cars can't get them. Adults can get used to scanning their surroundings and safely shepherding their kids to their destination. We found that we felt safest with our oldest child leading the way and the adult bringing up the rear, blocking traffic from behind and keeping an eye on the kids at the same time. You may prefer to ride side by side or with an adult leading the way. Maybe you could partner up with another family or families, strengthen numbers. Once you have the fun rides in hand, you can start to think about your commute, school drop-off, and other trips you make frequently. Even if you don't feel ready to go by bike every time, maybe pick one day a week when you ride instead of drive. The next thing to do is practice. First, ride the route on a weekend morning when you have plenty of time. Try different ways to get to your destination. Quieter parallel streets, non-car access routes, roads with bike lanes. We found a route to school that was 50% longer, but felt just as fast because it was nearly car-free. Bypassing a hill, avoiding a busy road, or passing a favorite friend's house might make all the difference. Once you've got the route down pat, it's time to get going. Try to leave extra early the first few times. I can tell you from experience, it is no fun trying to get a kindergartner to hurry because you're worried about being late for the bell. The expression pushing water uphill comes to mind. I will confess, sometimes I use little treats for encouragement. And don't forget to explain your reasons for going by bike. My kids feel really good about our lighter carbon footprint. And as they get older, they like the freedom and independence that comes from being able to get around on their own. Now that you and your kids are riding regularly, I'd recommend investing in the lightest kids bike that your budget allows. Little bodies have to work harder to get their bikes moving, and sometimes kids' bikes weigh more than the kids themselves. Kit them out with water bottle holders, a fun bell, maybe a handlebar bag or a rear rack if they want to be able to carry some stuff themselves. It also helps a lot if the adult riding with the kids can carry most of their gear. Another way to help them go faster and enjoy themselves more. If you want to take it one step further, the next thing to do is to assess which trips you still feel you need to do by car, and why is that? Is it weather, too much stuff to carry, lack of a safe route or distance? Then ask yourself, what could you use to help convert those trips to bike trips? It might mean combining cycling with public transit. It might mean choosing shops and activities closer to home. We switched dentists, for example, to carve 45 minutes off that trip. The new dentist has terrible car parking options, but a very nice bike rack. For lots of families, the biggest challenge is hauling the kids' stuff. If cargo bikes aren't feasible for you right now, try outfitting your bike with some big panniers, a basket, or a trailer. Always carry bungees with you too. You'll be amazed at how much you can carry, and you may find you really enjoy the challenge and the incredulous looks you'll get as you ride by. In conclusion, and with apologies to Yoda, when it comes to switching from driving to cycling, it's not a case of do or do not. All you have to do is try. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Robin. I think you've inspired so many people with just showing how, what a great way to follow up Céline too, showing how to make family life work on the road, and you've shown how to make it work, right at home. And thanks so much for sharing that story. I've got first question for you. Obviously making this change was a big decision that took a fair bit of time and happened over a while. Did you have any mentors along the way who really helped kind of show you what was possible?
That's a great question. I wish I had had more examples to follow. I now feel part of an amazing cycling community on Twitter particularly, but at the time I didn't really, but I have to give credit to my husband, Matthew, who started us on this whole journey and led the way consistently. He was winter riding for years before I worked up the nerve to try it. And he really encouraged and supported me to make this change with the kids.
Right on. Well, hopefully now you're able to, share your example and mentor and inspire so many others.
I would love that.
One more quick question. Do your kids ever miss the SUV?
I'll be honest, they did a lot at first because it was easier for them, right? They could just sit there and finish that homework that they didn't quite get to the night before, or look at their phone or whatever. Now they don't. They take a lot of pride in getting around by bike, and they kind of look at their friends and think like, he doesn't even know what's in his neighborhood because he gets driven everywhere. So, we'd have to ask them for the truly honest answer, but I don't think they do miss it. No.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much, Robin. Awesome story. I'm gonna transition now to our fourth and final storyteller for this evening, CÉCILE Lecoq. Cécile came to Ottawa from France as an exchange student in 2006 and never left. She's passionate about sustainable mobility and is determined to walk, bike, and bus the talk. Her family has been happily living car-free for the past 2 years. And apart from cycling, reading about transit, and listening to urbanism podcasts, Cécile enjoys spending time with her 2 boys, learning to play the guitar, and hopefully soon going to the theater. Over to you, Cécile.
Hi. I have a small story to tell. It was June 2019, and I'm standing in front of my living room window. I'm looking at the street, and I'm waiting for my older son, Noah, who's 8 years old, to come home from school. I'm feeling very sick today, and so I couldn't bike to school with him as I usually do. And so he biked to school on his own for the first time. And he should be coming home any minute now. So I went to the window and I'm worried. What if he got hit by a car? I'm really terrible at this waiting thing. I'm almost as terrible as my mother used to be. I grew up in the country in Normandy. There was nothing around, nowhere to wander off. My sister and I were either home or being taxied to school and activities. But my mother would worry about anything. If my dad was 10 minutes late, she would have already imagined the worst scenarios and be about to call the hospitals. So I made a lot of fun of her when I was 19 and I left the house to study elsewhere. And she would be totally panicked if I didn't call for a couple of days. But then I became a mother. And I worried about my sons when they started walking and running and going down slides. I thought about everything that could happen to them. I'm that mom you see at the playground who keeps screaming, "Attention, be careful," at her kids every 10 minutes. So while I'm waiting for my son, with every minute that goes by, I'm getting more worried. But then I think about all the things I've done to get him to this point, to get him to bike independently. I taught him to ride a bicycle. I took him to grassy slopes so he could learn and not hurt himself if he fell. I broke my back holding onto the bicycle, let go and then ran after him to be able to catch him if he lost his balance. And we've been cycling to school together since he was 6 years old. We biked everywhere. It was our thing when his brother was born. We went on biking trips, and that was our moment. We biked to the library, the market, to day camps all over town. And it wasn't easy because the cycling network in Elmer, where I live, is basically a path at the very north and the path at the very south, and one painted bike lane. So to get to all these places, I would spend hours figuring out the safest route to get there, try and avoid busier roads. I discovered all kinds of paths between houses and through parks, so we would avoid interaction with cars as much as possible. And it wasn't always easy to find a way to get to the multi-use pathway, this holy grail of cycling infrastructure where my heart would finally stop pounding. And I tried to always be prepared. But I remember this one time when we got caught in a downpour on the way home, and we got completely drenched. And since it didn't matter anymore, we cycled in puddles and we laughed the entire way. We really had a blast. And so Noah got to really love cycling in a way that I never got to experience when I was a child. And he really loved it. And at that point, we relied on cycling so much that we'd been car free for a few months. And Noah came to hate car trips. So while I'm waiting for him, I'm thinking that he's a very capable boy and he's going to be fine. But then I think that this morning he had to take a different route because the street that we usually take was closed due to construction. And so this morning I drew him a map. with the landmarks and street names, so he knew where to turn. But he said, "It's okay, Mom. I take the street that we usually take to go to the tennis court, but instead of turning left, I turn right, and then I pass that other school building, and I turn left, and then I turn right on the street that goes to the schoolyard." And so I said, "Okay, but take the map." And as I'm waiting, I'm thinking that maybe he didn't find his way home. And that's when I see the silhouette at the end of the street. And as it gets closer, I can see my son's beautiful, smiling face. He's beaming with pride in a way that I've never seen him before. It's all worth it. Thank you.
You really had us, Cécile. We didn't know if he was coming home or not. Oh, yeah, way to such a cool way to tell a story, to share with us all the things that you were thinking about when you were waiting for him to come home, and all the preparation, and so exciting that you're able to make that work together. Can you tell us a little bit more about your, I think you said that you recently started or gone car free. What were some of the kind of family decisions behind choosing to do that?
So what happened is my husband got in an accident, collision, and the car was it was surprising. It wasn't very bad, and nobody was injured. But the car was a loss, and so we thought that we wanted to be car free at some point, but we felt that we weren't ready, and the car sharing station was too far, and we still needed a car a few times a week. But we started shopping for a new car, and it was such a pain to to find a used car in our budget. And when we got the big check from the insurance company, it actually made us feel like, wow, this is a lot of money, and there's a lot of things we could do with that amount of money if we didn't buy a car. So we thought we'd give it a go. For it was at the end of February, so spring was coming, and we thought that maybe for the the summer we'd be okay. And we just didn't go back. Yeah, it was such a relief, really, to not own a car anymore. And we thought it would be a constraint at the beginning, but it was really a freedom.
That's great. So does your son now cycle to school by himself regularly, and do you still worry?
I worry a bit less now. He bikes on his own regularly. He comes to meet us sometimes. Before you're already at the market, he lives on his own and joins us. I actually got him study tires to bike to school this winter. He ended up walking with friends more than cycling, but I was ready to let him experience cycling in winter. So I'm getting better, and it's actually getting them to bike actually made me a better mother, I think, because it let me experience the teaching them something and letting them become independent. Well, the little one is 7 years old, so he's still not there yet, but I find that it taught me a lot.
That's great. Well, thanks so much, Cécile. At this point, I'm going to invite the rest of the storytellers to turn their videos back on. And we'll have a little bit of a group huddle before we wrap things up for the evening. I want to go back for a second to Robin, and you kind of hinted that you're next month launching an electric cargo bike sharing service. I think everyone would love to hear a little bit more about that. And then other storytellers, if you want to jump in and share any experiences you have with electric bikes or electric cargo bikes, I think that's a really cool topic to share experiences about right now.
Sure. So there are lots of families that get around on what we call acoustic bikes, bikes that don't have electric power. And I respect that enormously. For us, adding the electricity and the extra carrying capacity really crossed off the list those last few trips that we felt we couldn't do by bike, and also made the other trips just that much more fun. So I wanted to help other people have that experience, but electric cargo bikes are not inexpensive, and quite often they have to be ordered with several months of lead time. So you kind of have to already know that you like them in order to try them. And that's a real barrier for a lot of people, of course. So I wanted to offer a way that people could try them for more than just, a 10-minute ride around the block from the bike shop. And I managed to find a couple that were being sold used that I bought up, and I have my own that I can loan out, as well as I just bought my first brand new one yesterday. And my idea is to rent them out at the lowest price that I can manage it without bankrupting myself, so that people can give this a try. I have 4 different kinds. My own Yuba e-Boda, which is a long tail, so it's got an extension behind the rider's seat where a couple kids can sit, or you can carry a bunch of groceries. I have a Bullet, which is a long john, so it's got an extended cargo area in front of the handlebars, and it's excellent for carrying stuff. You can also carry kids on it. And then I also have a true box feet with the big wooden box in front of the handlebars, which is excellent for carrying, several toddlers. It's the bike I wish I had back when I bought that SUV. If I had known such a thing existed, maybe I never would have bought that SUV in the first place. But then I wouldn't be here telling my story. So, and yeah, that's the idea. Right at the beginning, I'm just going to be renting it out locally, but if I'm right and there is a demand for this, I hope to expand to other cities. Who knows, but I'm starting small because I'm self-funded. But I think cargo bikes are really going to take off in the next few years, and I want to help make that happen.
Right on. Well, we all wish you all the best. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Thanks.
Anyone else want to jump in with electric bikes or cargo bike lessons or experiences to share?
Emily and I would like to rent a bike when it's in Vancouver. Emily and I want to rent one of those bikes. Mark us down.
Awesome. All right, you're first on the list.
Yeah, it's also when we decided not to buy a car, we bought a cargo bike, and that's what made it really easy to go around without a car. It's really great, and I too wish I had known this earlier, because I would have made different choices.
I got another question for everyone. And this is probably a good one to wrap up the evening. What do you think that riding a bike has given to your children? And why don't we start with Céline?
Okay, I think that for us, riding a bicycle is not about cycling. It's just a means of transportation. So our journey, or our life, as a nomadic life, is everything but cycling, I would say. It's just a mean that that give us the opportunity to do everything else, to be surrounded by nature all the time, to discover the culture of the world, to explore, wilderness. And so we really take it that way. So our children just learn that, they can go anywhere in the world. Nyla, I think the idea of the world is very small because she already has been cycling nearly, around the earth once. And what she used to say what is kind of funny is that they have no sense, they're no familiar about times, and especially day of the week. They have no idea. They just can't come around about day of the week. It doesn't work for them, but they know what is north, south, east, and west. So it's just really another way of bringing them up. And I think that I think it's just cycling is amazing because it's slow. And when you want to travel in a country, or when you want to travel in your country and you want to see the place, when you're by bicycle, you have the feeling of everything. You have the smells, you have the feeling of the wind on your skin. You're really immersed within your environment. You can't just, close the window of your car and then you're in your little bubble. You are there with the world. And so you can be fully in nature or fully around the people in a new culture, or in your country, it doesn't matter, but you are there. And so it teaches you to really live the present moment. And I think that's for our children, living the present moment. And I think that's also for everyone, living the present moment is probably the key for happiness.
Well said. Thanks, Céline. How about you, Chris and Emily?
Well, ask her the question one more time.
What has riding a bike given you, Emily?
Thank you.
Well, when I ride, it makes me feel happier. And also,
It's been a savior for our family during this COVID pandemic with all the different lockdowns and closures of things. It has really been, we were really glad that we invested in bicycles before the pandemic hit, because that's been a real important thing for our family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it means to ice cream, even local ice cream.
There's always ice cream at the end. How about you, Cécile?
Yeah, I'd say that my children really know their neighborhood because they cycle and they know, their friends' houses. They really know where to go, and they're getting to be more independent. And and I think it just makes things trips a bit faster than walking, and also they're on their own power. I remember my 7-year-old son said we were cycling home from school, and he said the school isn't very far from our home, Mom. And I said, no, it's just it's 1 kilometer, so it's not very far. And he said, no, it's not far because we have bicycles. And it made me laugh because they're very conscious of distances, but it allows them to go further and experience some independence.
That's really cool that it makes for your son, everything seems closer because he has a bike. Okay, over to you, Robin, for the last word.
Oh gosh, well, I could talk about this for more time than we have, but one thing that I'm thinking about is that when you're a kid, quite often you feel like you don't have much power, right? You don't have any influence over the decisions that adults make. And, you know, you might be worried about climate change, but if your mom wants to put you in her big SUV and drive you around, that's just what's going to happen. So for my kids, I think they feel really good that they know they're doing something to lighten their footprint, to be gentle on their neighborhood. And as Cécile said, you know, they have agency. It's their own power that gets them from A to B. And if they want to go to a friend's house and I'm busy, they can go. They don't have to wait to get driven there. And I think that's been really good for them. And also, I said this in the chat, but the more you ride your bike, the better you get at it. I mean, that's true with lots of things, but they can really see that when they started, they could only go short distances. And that charity fundraiser ride that I referenced at the beginning is something that the whole family does now, not just Matthew, but all the way down to my youngest. We do the 50-kilometer ride every year, and they take a lot of pride in that. So it's given them so much. They just love riding their bikes, and we love doing it with them.
That's so awesome. Wow, four such different answers, but all it makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, thank you, storytellers. Your stories have been so fantastic. Everyone, wherever you are, I hope you're giving them a round of applause in your living room. Thanks so much. I'm just gonna say a few final words to close things off, but storytellers, feel free to turn off your cameras. Two quick things before all our attendees go. We're going to send out a feedback survey after this event. We'd really love your input on how it went and how we can improve, because we're planning to run many more of these virtual storytelling events. And next and final event is that next month is Bike Month, and we are going to be celebrating with a story every day. We have, as I mentioned, 12 hours of recorded stories on our website, and we're going to share one of them on our social media every day. So be sure to follow us on our Bike Minds or on our Facebook, and we'll be sending out an email after this event on how you can keep up with that. So we hope you've been inspired tonight. We hope you've got some new ideas and some new people to connect to and follow. And thanks so much for tuning in. Have a good night, everybody.